Hello and welcome to Best Movies Recap. Today, I'll describe the action, sci-fi, and thriller film In Time. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. Humans will be genetically engineered in the future to cease aging at the age of 25. The sole limitation is that when people reach the age of 25, they only have 1 year to live. Time is now the world's money, and a person's life is shown on their forearm with a timer. The wealthy may almost live forever, whilst the impoverished live paycheck to paycheck. Will awakens to discover that he has less than 24 hours remaining. He walks down the stairs and approaches his mother, Rachel, who is celebrating her 50th birthday. Their joy is cut short when they begin discussing money. Rachel says she only has 3 days left on her leave and reminds Will of the payments and debts they need to pay. Will tells her that he will come up with the money. Rachel says she'll be gone for 2 days working and repaying a debt. She informs Will that he has to meet her at a bus station so he can give her more time. She then gives him 30 minutes so he can pay for a good meal. Will kisses her farewell before leaving for work. Will meets Maya on his way to work. Will joyfully grants her 5 minutes and sends her out smiling when she begs for a minute. He gets to work and runs into his pal Borel. Will works in a factory that manufactures time storage devices. He clocks out and is paid at the end of a long day's labor. He notices that his payment is insufficient and requests more, but the distributor claims that the quota has doubled and Will has not met it. Will later meets heads at a local pub, where some guys offer him to bet, but he declines, but not before reminding one of the men that he owes Will an hour. Will travels for an hour to meet with Borel. Borel is inebriated, pointing to someone who has been purchasing drinks for everyone. He claims the man has lived for over a century. Will notices someone looking at the man and chooses to notify the man, Henry, that he is being watched. Will requests that the man go since he is attracting too much attention, but the man refuses. When a bunch of males walks in, everyone in the pub rushes out. Borel informs Will that they are Minutemen, robbers and extortionists. Borel tugs Will away, but Will plans to stay and observe. Borel leaves him when he tells him that he would not do something dumb. The leader, Fortis, expresses his desire for Henry's attention and even gives Henry the opportunity to battle for it. Henry feels nauseated and goes to the restroom while a Minuteman looks on. He vomits. Will comes in, knocks the guy unconscious, and drags Henry along with him. Will and Henry flee, and Fortis and his soldiers pursue them. They escape by climbing over a barrier and hiding inside an abandoned building. The Minutemen are close following and almost catch up with them, but they abandon their pursuit when one of the men informs Fortis that he recognizes Will. Will and Henry become friends, and Henry confesses that he is 105 years old. He explains his impulsive action by saying his mind is tired and he seeks death. Will is irritated because he and his mother have to work many jobs just to survive. Henry then discloses the horrors of their world. Affluent people raise the expense of living, causing impoverished people to continue dying, giving the rich more time. The truth is that everyone has more than enough time. The affluent and powerful, however, are blinded by greed and the desire for immortality. Will is asked what he would do if he had the same amount of time as Henry. Will responds that if he had the time, he will not waste it like Henry did. Henry mulls over what Will says, and the two retire for the night. When the alarm goes off, Henry chooses to devote all but 5 minutes of his time to a sleeping Will. After a while, Will awakens to find that he has been sleeping for more than a century. He searches for Henry and spots him perched on a bridge. As Henry's final moments approach, he smiles and plunges into the river. Later, Will visits Borel, where he finds Greta holding their infant. Borel answers Will's call and tells him how much time he has. Borel asks Will what he has planned after hearing about the previous night's events. Will plans to bring justice now that he is aware of the truth. Will gives Borel a gift before departing. Borel looks at the bar on the other side of the street with his good fortune that in the meantime, Rachel repays a 2-day loan and tries to take the bus, but she is unable to do so because the fare has increased in price. She begs the driver and the other passengers to listen, but they all turn away. She begins to run as she becomes desperate. With each second and each step, Rachel's death gets closer as the two are racing against time. They finally come face to face. Despite their best efforts to run, Will and Rachel are overcome by death. Will catches Rachel as she collapses, dead. Will sobs, realizing they had only a few seconds left to live the life they had always wanted. Will currently has all the time he could possibly need, but his mother does not. Timekeepers take Henry's body out of the river the following day. The senior timekeeper Raymond and his junior partner Jaeger look into the situation. Raymond spots a camera on the bridge as they are about to leave. Will, meanwhile, is sitting in a car with a new suit on and a fresh face. They cross over the time zone, a line dividing the various social classes. They pay an increasing toll at each border they cross while traveling with him. Will is welcomed to the city of New Greenwich by the driver after crossing the last border, which cost him a year. The driver questions Will about his genuine motivation for visiting New Greenwich, and Will responds that he intends to make the residents of New Greenwich pay. Will had never been to a city like this before. He starts sprinting as soon as he gets out of the car, still used to live with limited time. He glances at his arm and begins to act as if he had all the time in the world. However, he has already piqued the interest of a woman named Sylvia. Will walks into a hotel. Will awakens in his luxury quarters, still 105 years old. Even though he is sleeping in the most comfortable bed in the greatest room with the best view, his mother's tragic death haunts him. He has gourmet food and beverages for the first time in his life. He pays for his dinner and tips the waitress a week. Will stands out from the crowd, according to the waitress, since he does everything too quickly. Will slyly responds that he doesn't finish things quickly. Will intends to join the casino, but first he needs to change his clothes. They observe Will in the security camera at the timekeeper's headquarters. According to Yeager, a man crossed multiple borders on his way to New Greenwich. On the computer, they gather more information about Will, and Raymond reveals that he knows Will's father. Will walks into a casino and takes a seat at a poker table. Philippe, a billionaire with eons in his time, meets Will while the dealer deals. Will's winnings from a few rounds of poker total more than 2 centuries. Philippe adds 50 years to the pot. Regardless, Will calls confidently, and the river turns out to be the 6 of diamonds. Will's attention shifts away from the game and toward the lovely dame, Sylvia, who sits beside Philippe. Philippe rolls up his sleeves, revealing nearly 10 millennia of history. He then discusses the enormous disparity between the rich and the poor, justifying it as natural selection. He raises another 2 centuries. Will bites and calls, leaving his arm with only 30 seconds remaining. Will is rewarded with a millennium as a result of the outcome. Philippe's mundane life was enlivened by this. He notices Will looking at Sylvia and inquires whether he considers her to be his grandmother, mother, or wife. Will simply states that she is stunning. Philippe introduces her as his daughter, and she extends an invitation to him to a party. Will spends his winnings the next day to buy a brand new car, which he drives to Philippe's mansion. There, he meets 3 generations of women who appear to be sisters. Will appears out of place among the elite group. He's about to spend a lonely night when Sylvia comes along. They learn more about one another, and as a result of their conversation, they start dancing. She inquires as to his ghetto origins, but Will neither confirms nor denies her assertions. Sylvia confides in him about her pointless existence and how the passage of time imprisons her rather than releasing her. Philippe and her spouse keep a wary eye on the two as this is going on, which prompts Will to take Sylvia to the beach outside. After changing into swimwear, Will and Sylvia enter the water. They are floating inches apart on the water, naked, and their arms are illuminated by the moon. Sylvia moves away from him, but the waves pull her in. The romantic moment is abruptly broken by a call from the shore. When they get back, Philippe invites Will to play poker with him. The timekeepers, however, storm in and confront Will. When Raymond is seated in an office, he introduces himself. He questions him as to why he is in New Greenwich and how he has survived for more than a millennium. Will responds truthfully and claims Henry gave it to him before killing himself. He is detained after Raymond questions his justification and seizes his time. Will questions him as he departs as to why he looks into suicide since homicides occur in the ghetto every day. He makes a comment that shocks Raymond because it makes him think of Will's father. Will then goes outside to kidnap Sylvia captive after attacking the timekeepers who were protecting him. The two get into his car and leave via the kitchen. During a car chase, Raymond smashes Will's vehicle, putting them out of control. Will moves deftly while in reverse, just missing a coming truck. They misplace the timekeepers, so they take cover under a bridge. Will tries to get Sylvie's attention, but she declines. When morning arrives, they go along the motorways while driving through traffic snarls. They crash when the tire rips. The unconscious couple is approached by Fortis and his men. Sylvia loses time to him, but they hurry away and she is only left with 30 minutes. She is given some time by Will, after which they leave to obtain more. Will raps on Borel's door with 3 seconds remaining. Greta responds and tells Will that Borel passed away as a result of alcohol poisoning. Sylvia is anxious because she only has a short amount of time. When Will notices her earring, they both run to the jeweler. He offers only 2 days' pay because he realizes they are in a desperate situation. When Will agrees, they run for cover as soon as they hear the timekeeper's sirens. As they stroll through the city, they discuss Sylvia's family enterprise. She responds that they are worth too much to know how much they are worth when Will inquires how much they are worth. Will calls Raymond and asks him to send Philippe to the ghetto city for 1,000 years in exchange for Sylvia. Raymond cautions him that if he goes on as he is, he will perish just like his father. Will claims that his father lost his life in a fight, but Raymond claims that Will's father was engaged in more hazardous activity. The evening comes, and Sylvia settles into Will's apartment. When she inquires about his family, Will tells her about the death of her mother. He thinks back to his father and how, like him, he enjoyed gambling. Though on a different game, his father would engage in a game similar to gambling, but with his time. His father won a lot of money, but his generosity killed him. They discover they are roughly the same age, and their bond deepens as they learn more about each other's past. Morning arrives, and he watches to see if Philippe keeps his end of the bargain. Will doesn't believe in time travel, leaving Sylvia disappointed in her father. Will intends to let Sylvia go despite not receiving the time. He walks her to the phone booth, handing her a gun as a farewell gift, and she reciprocates with a kiss. She calls her father and scolds him for not fulfilling Will's request. Will is chatting behind her, unaware that Raymond is pointing a gun at him. When Sylvia turns and sees Raymond, she immediately shoots him. Will attempts to use his gun on a bleeding Raymond, but instead of waiting, he he gives him some, and the two flee in his car. Sylvia inquires if he has any plans as the two are parked by the side of the main road. Being in a police vehicle allows them to play the role of a timekeeper by blocking an unfortunate driver. Will and the driver are startled by Sylvia's shot after she gets too comfortable with the weapon. They take something from the passenger before driving off in the new car. The two watch the news about them later that day while seated in the back seat of the car. Sylvia doesn't want to go back to her mundane life despite Will's assurance that she can still go back to her father. With more time at his disposal, Will leans in for another kiss. Philippe assures his colleagues in his office that he did not pay the ransom. They question his ability to solve this problem, but Philippe is unable to explain himself before Raymond enters the room. He informs Philippe that her daughter is resistant to being saved. Philippe expresses regret and blames his daughter's obstinacy on Stockholm Syndrome. He is told that Raymond will arrest his daughter after he refuses to move. Philippe tries to bribe Raymond with his time, but he is uninterested and leaves. Will teaches Sylvia how to shoot a gun properly the next day. They discuss Will's plan to give people time, and she says she can help him get the time he needs. A truck crashes through the glass panes at the local lending establishment. The two commit a heist, stealing as many timekeeping devices as they can. They encourage borrowers to take as much time as they need, and they all rush in. Later that day, Will donates time to Greta, Maya, and even the timeline distributor who donates time to people as a form of charity. For the time being, Fortis continues to harass and murder people. He then notices a 10-year reward for the capture of Will and Sylvia. Meanwhile, Philippe follows the news to learn about his daughter's ongoing attempts to steal from him. Later that night, Raymond and the timekeepers surround the two's motel. Will and Sylvia realize they're being pursued and jump out the window to flee. Raymond pursues them through the streets and dark alleyways. They make their way to the roofs, and the shootout begins. They make it onto a bus, but lose Raymond. Fortis' search for Will and Sylvia continues. He interrogates a group of people while threatening to steal their time. When one of them dies, a man steps forward and claims to know where they are. At the hotel, the two sit on the couch together, discussing the next obstacles. They both understand that if they are caught, they will perish. Sylvia felt more alive than ever throughout their time together, and every time they were on the verge of death. Fortis and his soldiers suddenly break through the door. Fortis, feeling benevolent, allows Will to play for his life. Fortis pulls up his sleeve and challenges Will to a game of strong arm. Will suffers until the last few seconds, then turns it around as Fortis loses focus. As his subordinates approach the table, his fear grows. Will pulls a gun from his ankle and shoots everyone while draining Fortis. Will and Sylvia stand on a rooftop, watching as prices continue to rise. Will is depressed, claiming that the rich will simply raise the cost of living by stealing. He claims that 1,000,000 years will not make a difference. Sylvia concurs, but she has a plan. Philippe enters a building the next day, surrounded by a swarm of bodyguards. Sylvia draws their attention and requests this father. Will, one of the guards, points a gun at Philippe's head. He orders the guards to lay down their weapons, and they kidnap Philippe. In his office is a time vault with a gadget with 1,000,000 years of storage. Philippe attempts to explain that if that time gets into the wrong hands, civilization would fail. He claims that there will always be someone prepared to sacrifice others in order to achieve immortality. Will loses his cool and points a gun at him, but he quickly recovers. Will informs Philippe that immortality is not worth even one person's life. They then depart. Meanwhile, police cars begin to blockade the main route. The timekeepers fire on Will and Sylvia's, but they somehow escape unscathed, slamming the toll booth to cross the border. Raymond does not give up and pursues them. They arrive in the ghetto, and just as they are about to reach safety, Raymond intercepts and crashes into them. Will survives and asks Maya to distribute the 1,000,000 years. Raymond points a gun at the two, but the commotion blocks his line of sight, allowing them to flee. Raymond steals a car, and the chase continues. Finally, they collide in the middle of the road. Raymond admits that he is also from the ghetto, and as he learned how to escape poverty, his eyes were opened to the harsh reality that the gap between the rich and the poor must be maintained. Raymond realizes that his time is running out as they converse. He dies on the spot, and the two try to replenish their reserves. Raymond's car is visible in the distance, and they sprint towards it with seconds to spare. Will is the first to arrive and is given his time. He then dashes over to Sylvie, who is running out of time. They run into each other's arms just in time, and they both live to fight another day. Citizens are increasingly crossing into more expensive areas. The Minutemen watch as their social hierarchy crumbles. Sylvie and Will continue on their way, this time to a massive time bank. Thank you for watching.